Good afternoon and welcome everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us today for today's Advanced Report Designer on pulling data from multiple applications. Today's presenter is Dan Collins. He has been at the forefront of EHR development and customer care for over 21 years while working at Meditech in various roles, and he has led data service teams and supported all of Meditech's platforms. As we go through the education session, please make sure not to put us on hold, as the on hold music can cause disruption to the session for others. If you do drop off the call, you're more than welcome to dial back in. Feel free to ask any questions. And with that, I will turn the presentation over to Dan.
Thanks, Danae, and welcome everyone. Today we're going to be going over pulling data from multiple applications in Report Designer. I'll let you in on a little secret. We have this course listed as Advanced Report Designer, but actually in Report Designer, they make it really easy to pull data from other applications. It's a lot easier than it used to be in NPR Report Writer. But anyway, what we're going to cover today is using Object Explorer to understand inter-application relationships, choosing the correct detail record, choosing the correct index, and defining data links between applications. And then we'll follow up with a live demonstration where we will actually write a PCS report to list off some PCS interventions and orders associated to those interventions. So let's go ahead and get started. The report example that we're going to write today is an example that will pull data from several different applications, PCS being one of them, order management, and also registration. For this scenario, we're going to say that we've been asked to create a report that will print off details on orders that were generated as part of a PCS intervention. We're also asked to include interventions from a given registration date range and also include the patient name and account number, the registration date, the intervention mnemonic and name, the order date and time, and the order procedure code, and also who was responsible for generating the order. So Object Explorer is a tool that Meditech provides that's pretty powerful, and you can launch this right from Report Designer or right off of your reports menu, off of your Meditech menu. When you're looking at different pieces of data here, this information all gets compiled from what they call the Meditech data definitions. And the data definition just describes how all the data in Meditech is laid out. In our report, we were asked to print off information from PCS interventions. So you can see all the way in the left-hand column here is the application, patient care, and the next column highlights all of the objects in the patient care application. In the object that we're going to focus in on today is the PCS account object, because this is where all the intervention data is stored for each patient. And then if you look at the next column all the way on the right, the records column, this lists off all of the records and all of that records fields here. And you can see I have highlighted the intervention order OID. This field is the one that points to the order that's associated to this intervention. There can be more than one order. There can be multiple orders associated with a single intervention. I can tell that by looking at the keys for this record. The OID is called the object identifier, and that identifies the PCS intervention. And then we'll have the intervention URN and then the intervention order URN. The intervention URN, there can be different versions of the same intervention, so each one will get a different URN, and then each order under that intervention will have its own unique identifier URN. And you can tell which fields point to other objects by the little yellow arrow icon on the left-hand side of this records table. That indicates that this field points to another object, either another object in PCS or another object in another application. In this case, this intervention order OID field points to OM ORD. And you can see that here in order management. On the next slide here, if we clicked on that field, we would be brought up, the next screen would be brought to our attention. And you can see by looking at the data on this field that the data type is an object identifier. And that means if the data type is object identifier, that means that field points to another object in Meditech. And then the pointer is what object that this field points to. So this OID field will be this long kind of internal alphanumeric value, and they usually start with the letter B and then the date that object was created, followed by a bunch of other random numbers as the object identifier. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. When we start creating our report, we have to define in Report Designer how different data objects from one application relate to one another. So we have to tell the report that this field from this record actually points to this field in another application or another object. So we have to tell the report designer that when we're looking at the order that's associated to the intervention, we have to tell it how that order field is associated to the order object in OM. And we do that through field links. And a lot of times a report designer is able to do this automatically, where because of all these links are defined in the data definitions, a lot of times it can pull in this data automatically. And that's what it did here on this screenshot that I have. You can see that the record, PCS account, intervention, OM order is linked to the OM order main record, and it's linked by this field. So this says the intervention order OID field is the same thing as the OM ORD OID. And that's the main key for that object. But sometimes it doesn't, report designer is not always able to do this for you automatically, and you have to do this manually. But as we start building the report, I'll show that to you. The other important thing in working with reports is choosing the correct detail record. And this is important for any report, but it's especially important for working with reports that cross multiple applications. So we already talked about, for this report that we're going to write, all the different pieces of data that we're going to need. We're going to need like the patient name and account number from registration. We're going to need some of the intervention data from PCS. We're going to need to get the orders that are associated to that intervention. We're also going to need to get some of the order detail itself, like what's the status of the order, and who ordered, who was the person that triggered the order. So generally what we would want to do is we have to figure out, all right, which piece of data are we going to iterate on, or are we going to loop on? We're going to go through a specific registration date range, and we're going to get all the patients that were registered in that date range, and then we're going to look at all the patients' interventions. So we're looping on all the interventions, but within each intervention, we're going to look at all the orders. So we basically have to figure out, all right, what we're looking at compiling lists of data here, and we have to choose which list are we going to be looping on here. And that one, the best detail record for the report here is going to be the OM order record. That will allow us, and it's the OM order record in the PCS account. So it would be the PCS account int OM order record. And that's going to be the record that we're going to be looping on most often. And it makes the most sense to have that as the detail record for our report. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get into the test system for one of HCI's customers, War Memorial, and we're actually going to write this report. Before I get started, does anybody have any questions? Okay, let me see here. I'm going to pull up my other session here. Okay, there it is. All right, so we're going to write a PCS report. So I'm going to make sure I click on New for New Report. And we're going to create a new PCS report, PCS HCI intervention or report. We're going to go in and start adding the fields that we want on the report. And we're going to, like I mentioned before, we're going to look at PCS account. That's where all the intervention data is stored for each patient. We've been asked to add some information on the patient's intervention. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at we're going to get the intervention mnemonic, and we're going to also get the intervention name. So when you see a field that has the blue icon there, that also means that you're pointing to another object. So the intervention field under PCS account actually points to the intervention dictionary in PCS, and you can see that here when I expand, when I click on the blue icon, plus minus icon to expand these fields, I can see these are all fields in the intervention dictionary. So what I want to include is the intervention mnemonic and also the intervention name on our report. I also want to look at the intervention orders. So I'm going to scroll down and look at the intervention. You can see down here the intervention order ID, and this has a plus next to it. We know that this points to the actual order, the order dictionary in OM. So actually, I'm sorry, not the order dictionary, but the actual order itself that was placed on the patient. So we're going to want some information from this order too. We're going to want the procedure we're going to scroll all the way down and look at the procedure mnemonic and the procedure name. We'll do procedure name mnemonic. There's the procedure name. I thought there was one that had both the procedure name and the mnemonic. Anyway, we'll include the procedure name. We also want to do the category, procedure category. Here's procedure. There's a category. We also want to include the order user and the status and the date and time that we ordered the order. So order, date and time, order user. And at this point, it's probably easier to go out because it's hard to choose all these order fields from the intervention. You can see there's this big long list I'm scrolling through. So rather, I may want to select these fields and then go back in and change. Oops, you know what I need to do here? I forgot to do is I have to click change from basic report to advanced. The basic version of Report Designer doesn't allow you to add fields from other applications. You have to select advanced to make sure that you're able to pull in fields from other applications. So we're going to go back into the fields and go straight to OM ORD this time. And then I can easily search for things like date, like order, date, and time. Makes it a little easier to find the data that I'm looking for. And also status, order status. And also I want to know the order user. And I might not just want that user's mnemonic. I might actually want to look at the user's name from the MIS person dictionary. I can do that easily here. So this is another application that we're pulling data from, MIS. All right, so I think we have all the fields. Oh, you know, we also needed to get registration date. We want to know what date the patient was registered. So I'm going to go in to Reg Account, and I want registration date. We'll do registration date time. Oh, and the last thing I think we need is the patient's name and account number. So we'll get that from registration again. It's actually not stored in PCS, so we have to get the name and account number from registration. I usually like to just do, I think there's a field called number and name that gives you both. I just like, that's the easiest way to do it. So let's rename some of these fields so they're more clear as to what they are on our report. So we'll go intervention mnemonic, intervention name, order category, procedure, and then we'll do procedure name, And then for ordered date and time, we'll just say ordered on, and then status is order status. And I could see that this is it just says status here, but I know it's the order status because if I look all the way on the right-hand column, it says the record is OM ord. And then the username will say ordered by. And then registration date and time, that looks good. And then for account, maybe we'll say patient. And that looks good. So now we can see that the report, I think the first field we must have selected was from PCS account interventions, but we want to make sure that PCS account int OM order is our detail record. So all you have to do to change the detail record on your report is select this detail cell on this int OM ord row. So it says all links will be removed. Yes, that's fine. And what I was talking about earlier in the slide presentation, I showed you the screenshot of the field links. You get to those through this button here on the field screen. And these are the links in the screenshot I showed you before. So it looks like Report Designer did properly define the different links from our PCS account records to OM ord main. And so what this means is that we've defined the int OM order record as our detail record. We're also on the selection screen. We haven't done this yet, but we're going to use a registration index based on patient's registration date to select our patients. So what's going to happen is the report will first go through that index to find patients that fit into the registration date range that the user selects. And then the report's going to loop through all of the patient's interventions. And since we've defined the detail record to be int OM order, the report is then going to loop through all the orders associated to that intervention. And then once it gets each detail record, then this is what tells the report, okay, how do I get the field information for the OM order fields that I've put on the report? And this is how it does it. This tells Report Designer that, okay, this field in PCS, the order ID points to this particular order on this particular patient. And same thing with, there's some other ordering fields that were in the third main record in OM ord. We also have to select pointers to that record. And also with the registration, the name number field is a computed field because it takes the name field and the account field and puts it together. So it happens to be under the computed fields record and registration. And the registration date is under the reg account main record. All right, anybody have any questions about links? There's all sorts of different attributes and values you can add in here to make links in different ways. You can use an index to make links. This is a little bit more advanced stuff, and I've rarely had to use, in writing reports, I've rarely had to use any of these other fields. I have used the link index before to help make links. And this is just a lookup here. The link index is just to all the indexes that are available. But we'll go ahead and file that, even though we didn't make any changes. The general tab, I want to make the report a little bit larger. I'm going to reduce the font a little bit from 2 down to 1, and I'm going to increase the margins, reduce the size of the margins a little bit, just so I can fit more data onto the report. I'm going to go 0.375 inches on both sides. We have to enter in the selection fields for the report. This is where we enter in the date range. So we're going to say reg account, registration date. And it's always good to choose fields that have the yellow eye icon indicating that there's an index associated to that field. And using the right index when you're writing a report will make your report run as fast as it can. So we'll enter in from registration date, and we'll say that it's greater than or equal to. And so the way you read this is that the registration date that's entered in on this screen is greater than or equal to the registration date on the record that we're looping on. So if I entered in November 1st per a date on the screen, and I come across a patient who was registered on August 1st, then I'm going to ignore that patient because it is not greater than or equal to this date on the report selection screen. Oops, this might take a little while. Here, I'll have to do this. Enter in registration date again. Oh, reg account. Registration date again. This time it's going to be the through registration date. And it's going to be less than or equal to. We're also going to enter in registration facility. Which you'll notice also has the indexed icon. And create that as a new block on the screen. And then we're going to select an index. Oops, I forgot to say facility equals facility. I'm going to enter in an index. And Report Designer tries to present you with indexes in the order where it thinks would be the best suited for your report. And I'd agree with Report Designer here that this reg account, facility reg date select index is a good index for us to use because it has facility as the first key and registration date as the second key, which means that we should be able to find our date range of patients very quickly. All right, we're going to go ahead now. Sorts. I want to add a sort field for the patient itself because I want to add a header region on the report to display the patient information. Right now, with these fields that are listed here, there's no field that is specific to the particular patient that we're on. So I'm going to add one. And when I add that region in the report, I'll explain that to you a little bit more. So we want to do registration account, PCS account, registration account. And I'm going to move that up. The account should go right before the intervention, because each account will have multiple interventions. All right, so now I'm going to move on to regions. This particular report, I don't need a page header, but let's see, let me scroll up a little bit. So like I was saying, I do want to have a section for the patient data. So you can see here, key header region 4 happens to be on the registration account record. So that would be a good place to put the patient data in that little section there. So I'll check that off, and it will, on the layout page of the report, it will add that KH4 region for us to put the patient data. And I also want to include an area to put the intervention data. So I'll add another region for the intervention data here on the intervention URN. And then the order section, that's just going to be our detail section in the report down here. So we'll go to our layout and we'll add our fields. And we'll do auto format, horizontal with labels. And now we'll go ahead and add those fields. And then we'll rearrange them. So first of all, that top section there, that KH4, that's associated to our patient. So I want to put our patient information up there. So our patient number and name can go right up here. And the registration date. You know, you might also want to include other information like, you know, the patient's location and room and bed and that. And then the next section is our intervention information. Intervention mnemonic. And then the intervention name. I'm just going to put the name after the mnemonic. We don't have to put a label there that says that's the intervention name. That'll be pretty obvious. I'm just going to select that label and delete it. Click on the delete button down here. Next, in the detail section, we're going to have all of our order information. So let's see. We'll give a little space in between the intervention and the order information. So we'll do under procedure, we'll do the procedure. Oh, you know what? That is just the, let me see. I don't know if that's the procedure. Yeah, I don't know why that's so long. That field is ridiculously long. Let's edit that, 90 characters. Let's bring that down. I believe that's just a procedure mnemonic. So let's bring that down to 20 characters. And then we have the procedure name. And then the procedures, like the order category, we'll include that. And then we'll do the order status. We can shorten this label a little bit. Maybe we'll just call it status instead of order status. And then we'll include when it's ordered, date and time where it's ordered, and who ordered it. We can shorten the username. And I'll bring that down to maybe 40 characters will probably allow us to fit it on the report. Oh, you know what? And we'll slide these fields over a little bit so they're a little bit indented, so it'll make the report a little easier to read so that when we print it out, we can see, all right, these interventions and these orders are all under the same patient. I'm also going to add a horizontal line between patients. Order category, let me shorten that a little bit too, just call that category. You can use your arrow keys in your keyboard or your mouse to drag and drop to move fields around. All right, almost there. I'm going to show the rows here, and I'm going to draw a horizontal line. You know, I don't want to draw a horizontal line. Well, yes, I want to draw a horizontal line here after all the detail records are printed. So after all the orders are printed, actually what I really want to do is I want to draw a line between each patient. So what I'm going to do here is delete this here, and I'm going to add another region, a trailer region for each patient. So I'm going to go down here to my trailer regions, and where it says registration account, I'm going to include the trailer region for the patient, just so I can draw a horizontal line there. So it makes the report a little more readable, where I can have a little bit of a graphical separator between the patients. I'm going to uncheck draw lines and click on that line and edit it just to make sure it's lined up properly. Where it says left edge there, I want to make that 0 because I want it to go all the way over to the left, and then we'll put that at the bottom of the row. There we go, that looks good. I need to clear out all these blank lines here. And the way you do that is you don't uncheck show rows and then the region below the detail region here. I'm going to click and drag, and I can delete all those lines there. So I'm going to click create on the report here, and we're gonna run it and see what we get. And this report, as you've seen, pulls in data from a bunch of different applications. We're going to click run. We'll go back 30 days. Choose our facility. All right, and there we go. So you can see we're listing each section between the lines here as a single patient, and we have each intervention that's associated to that patient, and then under each intervention, we have a particular order, the order status, the procedure name, order category, and the person, the user that ordered that order. And these interventions all seem to only have one order associated to each intervention. So that's it. We've written our first report that pulls data from other applications. Let me get back to my slide deck here. And that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions? Continue to visit our website, thehcisolution.com/webinars. We're going to continue to add educational sessions there. So keep an eye on that and sign up for the sessions that you're interested in. But thank you for your time. And Danae, I'm not sure if you had anything else you wanted to add.
Sure. We do have the videos of all of the education sessions are being uploaded to our video library on our website as well. And if you have any reporting needs that need to be outsourced, we'd also be happy to take that off of your shoulders. We have an automated quote request button directly on our website where you can get an automated quote. And if you need any information or want to discuss a request further, please feel free to contact us. You can contact us directly from our website. And thank you everyone for coming, and thanks Dan for presenting this for us. Have a great day.